Republican lawmakers in Iowa are seeking to cut funding for schools in that state that use the New York Times radical 1619 Project curriculum. This is a theory that claims capitalism is a tool of, quote, systemic racism. According to the legislation, schools that violated this restriction would have their budgets reduced each day that the curriculum was used. He has continued politicalization. Twitter's ban on former President Donald Trump is permanent now and will not be lifted even if he plans to run again for the White House. Twitter CFO Ned Siegel saying today, quote, "When you're removed from the platform, you're removed from the platform. Our policies are designed to make sure that people are not inciting violence. And if anybody does that, we have to remove them from the service, and our policies don't allow people to come back." Joining me now is Harmeet Dhillon, co-chair of the Republican National Lawyers Association and RNC committee woman from California. Harmeet, good to see you. So even before the president is being tried for specifically that charge that he incited violence on January 6th. So Twitter isn't even waiting for the results of the trial. They have already judged the president and found that he is guilty of something that the Senate is in the midst of right now. What do you think?
Well, this is no surprise. Twitter exhibits arbitrary behavior on a regular basis, and that's ultimately going to be something that their shareholders are going to have to look at in terms of the stability of the platform. Twitter allows threats of violence on its platform and organization of violence every single day. As we speak, there are riots occurring and violence against a police department in Portland right now. Antifa is allowed to organize and crowdsource violence on that platform every day. Genocidal remarks are allowed by celebrities in India who are critiquing protesters there, on farmers who are challenging things there. All over the world, Twitter allows violent rhetoric that it prefers. So this is gross hypocrisy, and it's not surprising at this point. They've shown many examples of this.
Well, and it's not only something that should bother its customers, but it is in direct violation of Section 230, which deems that as an open platform, it should not be making editorial judgments.
Well, I've actually gone to court and sued Twitter for that very argument, and unfortunately, California's courts do not agree with that position that you just articulated. And when President Trump was in the White House, he had a chance to do something about this, and he didn't. And so now we're living with the legacy of that, the corporate absolutists who believe that corporations should be allowed to have all the power and do whatever they want. This is the legacy of that, and ultimately they are going to have a monopoly on speech worldwide, which is incredibly dangerous to democracy and to our republic.
By the way, California just had a tax boost, a windfall tax boost, because of the Silicon Valley companies of $20 billion. It's not surprising, given the fact that they're getting their money, their cash from these companies, that they would decide that in fact, Twitter did not violate Section 230, isn't it?
Well, we will see. Capital is fleeing California on a daily basis, and we are in for some hard times in California because of this very inhospitality to ideas and to businesses in California.
Let me switch to another business, the business of sports. And billionaire Mark Cuban, as you know, has decided he's not going to play the national anthem, which essentially outlines, the national anthem does, why the freedoms of America are so great and allow people like Mark Cuban to become a billionaire and allow people like the basketball players that work for him to become millionaires. It's just, I mean, there are many things about this that irk me, but the ungratefulness of Cuban to recognize that, in fact, the national anthem is a representative of a system that allows him to be the billionaire he is just extraordinary, no?
Well, it is, but are there going to be consequences for this? Americans have to take a hard look at this. If they feel that it's important to support our national anthem and why we are a country, and they want to see that everywhere, I'd love to see the national anthem sung more and in more and more venues. But people have a choice. They don't have to watch it. I'm not a sports fan,
and if I were, a lot of people are turning it off right now. I know. A lot of people are doing that, not only with the NBA, but also with the NFL. All right, the 1619 Project, we mentioned this at the beginning. This is something that was developed by a reporter for the New York Times. It essentially states that capitalism was born of slavery, and it continues to engender slavery among the workers who have to operate within it. It's essentially saying that capitalism equals slavery. Is that a message that our children should be hearing in schools?
Well, that's a radical Marxist agenda, and of course, that should not be what our children are hearing in the schools. This stems out of revisionist history that even I read in high school, Howard Zinn's history of the United States. And so I think it is absolutely appropriate for states who control the budgets of our school systems to say, we don't want that propaganda taught in our schools. I'm glad to see some states doing it.
School systems are supposed to be local. Even if the president believes in systemic racism, school boards can decide what they want. Harmeet Dhillon, great to see you again. Thank you very much for being here. Appreciate it.